So you're digging the Rolling Stones and want to look into their live material. Well, there's so much out there, so let me help you figure out the first live sets that you should listen to. The Rolling Stones, also known as the world's greatest rock and roll band. Hopefully this list will prove why that title is true. You may have noticed that the Stones have a lot of live releases. I love to highlight a few that you should absolutely start with if you want to get into the Stones' live material, because it's absolutely worth it. That really is the other side of the coin when it comes to the Stones. Really, the meat and potatoes of the band really comes with what they do with the songs on stage. I always felt that the original live legacy releases that they put out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s weren't really the best documents that put them in the best light. Sometimes these albums would be flawed. They'd either have bad mixes or be badly edited, or sometimes they would be kind of incomplete. The latest releases they've put out in recent years have sort of corrected a lot of the legacy releases that were always sort of underwhelming. So anyway, that's the background. Let's get started. First up is really a staple in any kind of Stones live diet, and that's Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. This comprises mainly of shows they did in Madison Square Garden in 1969. I have to admit that this album for the longest time was a little bit of a tug of war with me, because I sensed that this album was really a generational favorite amongst the fans. This was the gold standard. Nothing bettered this album. And to be honest, it was the only kid in town. I mean, it was the only really true document that really captured the essence of the Stones. I think since then there are other titles that do that job and add a little bit more to the experience. But nevertheless, Get Your Ya-Ya's Out is, this mainstay. It's irresistible in the sense that it's just bristling with energy. The band is just blossoming into becoming the Rolling Stones at this point. With Mick Taylor on board, he absolutely is this beacon in the show. He's really shining through, and some amazing performances here by everyone. Stray Cat Blues is absolutely nasty in every sense of the word. The song itself is nasty, but the performance is really grimy and dirty, and a great attack on both sides from Keith and Mick Taylor on this one. But for me, the centerpiece of the album is really Midnight Rambler. It's hypnotizing, really. It's just got such a fantastic laid-back groove. And to me, the definitive version of the song, the studio version, is obviously the blueprint. And, you can focus on the story. But the live version sort of takes it up to a much different level. It turns into a movie, really. It's a soundtrack to a movie that exists in your head. And the ups and downs of the live version really kind of pull you along on this movie. And it's a fantastic drama, really, if you allow yourself to picture it and go along for the rides. Anyway, Get Your Ya-Ya's Out is a no-brainer. It's absolutely a staple and a snapshot of the band during that time. But I think there are other titles that show more of what the Stones are on stage. Which leads me to my next choice, Brussels Affair from 1973, a legendary bootleg amongst the fan community for the longest time. It had been circulating for decades and decades, and for me, it's my favorite snapshot of the Stones in the early 70s. It kind of takes where Ya-Ya's start, and it brings it to really a different level. I mean, some would say they're a bit slicker and a bit smoother on this, but the intensity is really hard to fathom. One of the trademarks of the Stones performing is that they are so loose and so cavalier in their way that there are times where it feels like the songs are going to fall apart. You sense that things get a little wobbly, and there's a little uncertainty in the music. Yet they always kind of pull it together. You feel that in Ya-Ya's, but on Brussels, you definitely feel that because the band is going about 90 miles an hour. And it's great fun, very exciting. So many great moments on here. Again, Taylor kind of takes the focus and has some great moments on All Down the Line, and You Can't Always Get What You Want. But really, Gimme Shelter is really his moment to shine. His leads just flow through the song. His tone is like this laser that kind of cuts through. It's got this beautiful full-bodied tone that's very unique and very attractive to the ear. When you hear it, you just can't help but lock in. And he plays so gracefully and so elegantly that it's really just a pleasure to listen to. But as a whole, to me, this is a classic live album. And this is where the title, The World's Greatest Rock and Roll Band, really can hang its hat on. This document is really the best example to show what exactly they can do. For some reason, they've always made this show a little hard to find, but you can find it on the Super Deluxe edition of Goat's Head Soup. This next one is very, very special. El Mocambo, 1977. This was another holy grail situation for fans. This had been wanted for so long by the fans, and they only released it in 2022. This one is a special one because this is a club show. Keith has always described the band as your local pub band who made it big. And that really is their home base, is when they're in a tiny space. They're playing for each other, to each other, with the crowd right there, an arm's length away. And this particular recording is phenomenal. Ronnie Wood had been in the band for about 2 years at this point, and they're playing a lot of songs off the Black and Blue album. And it's a trip. From the moment the recording starts, it feels like you're there. It's mixed wonderfully. It's really Ronnie Wood's shining moment. He comes through so powerfully, and he's running through all these leads with such power and eloquence. It really is amazing. He has some great moments on All Down the Line and Dance Little Sister. The set list is fantastic too. It's a nice mix of some rare songs. Great version of Hand of Fate, which is one of their best songs. Jagger is absolutely singing his ass off. He is absolutely rippling through the recording. Everyone sounds fantastic. Charlie sounds great on it. Ollie Brown, who's the percussionist, sounds fantastic on it. Billy Preston is on here, which he plays some fantastic keys with some great harmony as well. And there's a very special inclusion of the song Worried About You, which, as you know, wasn't released until Tattoo You in 1981. So here they were playing the song 4 years before it was even released. The song was written and recorded during the Black and Blue sessions. It's a fascinating performance because Mick kind of fumbles through the vocal, and instead of going into his falsetto, stays with his regular register. You can tell the song is so new that they're still kind of working the song out. It's a special one because it's a small club, and the performance is just out of this world, really. This one is an instant classic. Next is Some Girls, live in Texas, 1978. This one is something else altogether. I will sometimes refer to this as the Rolling Stones' The Ride, because that's what this whole set is. It's a fantastic, high energy, amazing ride. As they become more and more of this touring monster, they become more and more locked in, and so they're able to take more chances and more risks. And that seems to be the case as we go into this year, is that Brussels was about 90 miles per hour. This is, they're getting some speeding tickets on this one. They're just barreling through. This is a runaway train at this point, and it's so exciting and so fun because you worry that the train will get off the track, but Charlie holds it down, Wyman holds it down, and it's this amazing tug of war between the band. They give the impression that things could fall off the rails at any moment, but they have things completely in control. And it's great fun. What's great about this set is that, as the title suggests, the set really is dominated by the Some Girls songs, which is fantastic because all the songs lend themselves to being played on stage. And they do most of the album during this set. They're doing When the Whip Comes Down, Beast of Burden, Miss You, Shattered, Respectable. It's really exciting to hear those songs in this setting. One of the things to get used to as you're listening to the Stones live material is that if you are more accustomed to hearing the songs very closely to the studio arrangement, that will be a little bit of a learning curve for you as you're listening to a lot of this stuff, because the Stones really adapt to their surroundings. Usually the studio take will be more reserved, but by the time they get on stage, well, the energy is going to be a little different. Anyway, it's probably my favorite live set. They're still kicking ass and sounding great. So this one is a must-have. Next up, we go to 1981 with Live at Hampton. This is another favorite of mine because it sort of encapsulates the classic Stones, I think, that most people would know. The vibe is, I mean, there's still pedal to the metal a little bit, but it's a little bit pulled back. But the band is completely now this five-headed monster at this point. But I love the interplay between Keith and Ronnie on this. You're getting to a point now where they're just getting better and better with this ancient form of weaving, where you're constantly flipping between Keith and Ronnie on lead work and rhythm work, and it's really fun to listen to. Some highlights here are When the Whip Comes Down is a fantastic jam, and really this guitar attack between Keith and Ronnie. And Mick will also put on the electric guitar for that one and kind of slash away, much to Keith's displeasure. There's a few videos out there of Keith showing his displeasure of Mick Jagger's electric guitar playing. He's not much of a fan. I think one of the stars on it for sure is Wyman, who has some great energy in his playing in this show. His walking bass lines kind of always catch the ear. And here's a bonus selection, which I didn't put on the official list, but this is from 1995. It's called Strip. This one is a very unique collection because it's a mix of familiar songs recorded in different settings. A good portion of it was recorded at the EMI studios in Japan. And then a lot of the live tracks were recorded during their European run of club shows in 1995. This to me is a special collection because it's a fantastic perspective as you go between the two different settings. And frankly, for my money, it's one of my favorite sounding acoustic albums. I've never heard a more beautiful acoustic guitar recorded than what's on this recording. You have performances of Wild Horses and Love in Vain and The Spider and the Fly. To me, these are impeccable recordings and great performances by the band. Very warm, full sound, and the guitars just ring through. And there's a great acoustic version of Street Fighting Man, which is really breathtaking. But anyway, this is a unique collection and something I would suggest if you want to try something different that's not like the other predominantly straightforward live recording. Okay, so there we have it. A lot of stuff there to listen to. Hope there's something there that you enjoy. Feel free to let me know if you check out any one of these. Definitely would want to hear your experiences and what you thought. Is there another live album that you prefer over these? Well, let me know in the comments. Until then, see you next time.